state transports from Prague, there were thousands of children on the lists who wanted to get out.
Then the day came that we had to leave. We went to the train. Everybody was there already, my grandparents and all our friends.
From what we've been able to work out later, almost all of the 669 children who came across to England and then later moved to other countries, some of them, lost their families.
Hi, I'm Lizzie Rigola with the Wellington Wave, and we're here with Nick Winton, who is the son of Sir Nicholas, who began the Kinder Transport train. We'd like to ask you what inspires you to tell your father's story.
When I first heard the story, it didn't mean anything to me, but when my father was introduced to some of the children he'd saved, which was 50 years after it all happened, I suddenly realised how important it was to those children, because for those children, that was their only connection with their past. All their family was dead, their parents were dead, their brothers and sisters were dead, and they'd suddenly arrived in a foreign country, not speaking the language, not understanding the culture, and grown up, and now 50 years later, when his papers were published, they found that he was the link with their past. And I suddenly realised when I met them how the message that at the time it was nothing, but 50 years on, 669 people were alive because he chose not to go on a skiing holiday but to do something different. So for me it's a privilege to be able to take the story and explain to people that he was a guy who put together a program that saved so many people. So it's just the message that one person can make a difference.
For you, when you heard about these people, how did it impact you?
Well, first I found the story incredibly moving. I mean, it's not the sort of thing that on a daily basis one really thinks about, that people could suddenly be uprooted and left to work out how they're going to even survive on their own. And yet in the news almost every week you hear something about displaced families, refugees from one war or another. And while I don't feel that I'm going to dive into each war and save refugees, it just is a reminder that things aren't that much different today than they were 50 years ago, 60, 70 years ago. There are still dreadful wars, still people who are persecuted and who are left homeless, and each individual one is a tragedy.
And if you could tell the students at our high school one thing, what would you tell them?
When you find something that matters to you, dive in and do something. Don't wait for somebody else to do it.
After the war, these children that went to private homes were not allowed to be adopted by their foster parents if anybody from their original families were alive to claim them. And so that's what she did. She claimed me, and that's how I came, reluctantly I must tell you, to the United States.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Rigola reporting for the Wellington Wave, and we're here with Miss Adler, who is one of the children who came to England on the Kinder Transport. Hello, how are you today?
I'm fine, thank you.
And Miss Adler, you lived in Vienna, Austria as a child, did you not?
Yes.
And you said during your story that you came from a very Jewish background. How was the transfer from the Jewish background to your English Protestant background?
At the very beginning, the first few days, it manifested itself only by the fact that I lost track of the days. And since Jews are not allowed to write and do certain things, religious Jews, on the Sabbath, which is Saturday, I lost the days in traveling. And since I couldn't speak English, I couldn't ask them. So when they gave me something to write with, I wouldn't write because I didn't know what day it was. It didn't take very long for me to get over that because I had so many other problems that was not something I could think about. But that was the initial transition because I was such a religious Jewish child.
Now, something interesting you said you had 3 different lives. Now, many people view a life as just a singular life, and they have many changes in life. Do you actually view your life as 3 separate lives?
Yes. None of these lives, they're like 3 roads that never meet. There's never an intersection. They just run parallel. I had a life in Vienna. Nothing from Vienna carried over to England. I had a life in England that ran for several years. It never crossed the life in the United States. That's another life. So I really did have 3 lives, and nothing spilled over. I didn't come with anyone that I knew, and I had to make a new life in each one of these countries.
And if there was anything you could tell our high school students, what would you tell them?
I have to go back to the same story. Whoever's sitting next to you, whoever's sitting in front of you, behind you, around you, is a human being just like you. This is what we are here on earth. Who put us there? That's your own belief system. I don't care what you believe. The fact is, we're here. And because we're here, we should inhabit this planet and respect each other as these humans. You wouldn't all want to be a clone and exactly the same. Would you want to be? I don't think so. Certainly not here in the United States. So just respect. The word is respect, respect, and respect.